You know, you could either have fear or desire. And I'm noticing that a lot of people are being crippled in the world by fear. And we need to strengthen our desire and to figure out what that desire is about. And Jeremy, you mentioned that you had a few moments of relief when you were out with the sheep, and a relief when you saw that the attention was being distracted from Israel. Well, I had a moment of relief over Shabbat because I've had a few moments of anxiety, not a lot of anxiety. War was never something that scared me too much. But for some reason, now that I'm a father, it does scare me more. And when I'm watching these Ukrainian refugees, you know, there are Jews that say, you know, they were horrible, the Chmielnitsky pogroms, and they were Nazis, and they voluntarily participated in the Holocaust, and they're the worst. There's no explanation, no words, no historical context can keep me from crying when I see a mother holding their 2-year-old baby running from Russia. Nothing that can be said can take the pain and the compassion and the empathy away. And so it's difficult to see all of that. But you know, when I was sitting in synagogue this Shabbat and I was reading this Torah portion, I had a moment of relief. And again, I'm really not, this isn't getting me. It's not like really shaking me too much, but it's a little bit anxiety. There's some anxiety here. Can I see some hands of anyone that feels a little bit more anxious now with what's happening in the world? Okay, so there's a lot of hands going up. A lot of people are feeling it. There's no, you don't need to feel bad about that, because when I was in synagogue yesterday, I found myself reading the portion, and you know, we read the Torah portion of Truma, and it details everything that will happen in the building and in the implementation of the Mishkan, of the Tabernacle. And then as we get to Vayakel and Pekude, we see that the Tabernacle is actually built, right? It's completed exactly as planned. And there was something that comforted me about that, because, you know, so many people are riddled with this fear and anxiety. And despite the fact that the members of this fellowship are among the most faithful people I've ever met in my life, a lot of you have reached out to me and shared your concerns and your anxieties. And many of you have expressed your desire to come here and visit right now that the gates are open. But you're nervous. Some of you said you're nervous about coming here during such an unstable time, and others of you are nervous about not coming here during these times, which makes a lot of sense to me as well. This feels like the safest place in the world to me. But it seems like nobody really knows what to do. Nobody knows where to go. Nobody knows if anywhere is ultimately going to be a shelter of safety in this world that is violently shaking to its foundations. And so reading this portion helped me realize the truth that when God speaks, his words do not return empty, right? His words do not return void. He has a plan. And regardless if we understand how it will play out, his plan will be fulfilled in fullness and in perfection. And the result of the completion of his plan will be that his Shekhinah, right, his divine presence, will rest in the world. And if we think about it, that's what the tabernacle was. Before the tabernacle, God bestowed these miracles and gifts and kindnesses upon the nation of Israel, most of which we really barely deserved at all. We didn't do much to really deserve it. We were the recipients, whether it was the 10 plagues, the Exodus from Egypt, the manna in the desert. But actually with the tabernacle, well, the tabernacle was a home that we could build for God. It's something that we were called upon to take part in, something that we could do for God, so to speak, at least. So, you know, we have these labors and desires and generosity, and right, there was generosity. Moshe had to actually come and say, enough, you can't give anymore, hold back your donations. There was such a desire, now that we can actually do something, there was such a desire to give. And we were able to build a dwelling place in the world which God could dwell in. If you think about it, it's like the most massive, unfathomable achievement or ability that we could build a dwelling place in the world that God could dwell in, because ultimately that's what we're trying to make the entire world into a mishkan, into that dwelling place. And so, you know, we look around and it feels like so much of this is out of our hands. There's Putin and the Ukraine and China and Europe and Syria and there's so many moving pieces, and it doesn't really appear that there's anything that we can do about it. But there is one thing that we can do. We can build the tabernacle in our own heart. That's something we can do for God, right? We can build a dwelling place deep in our hearts, which is pure, and it's untouched, and it's sacred, and we can fill that tabernacle with as much faith as we can muster, right? In our hearts, we can build this tabernacle within which the Shekhinah can dwell. And if we build this tabernacle in our hearts, then when the winds within which world history begin to blow with even greater speed and ferocity, and we feel it's happening, right? It doesn't feel like this is slowing down at any point, but it's just starting to speed up. And the spirit of war and hatred and inhumanity and godlessness are filling the world. Well, then we're going to have a tabernacle in our hearts within which God can dwell and within which we can take refuge. So I don't know if you feel like this, but it just seems like the world is just a series of smoke screens and distractions constantly. It seems like that, right? Look over here, there's Corona and the Canadian truckers and Google and Facebook and Bill Gates and the Russia and then the Ukraine. And it's like, holy cow, like strategic nukes. Did Russia just say they'll use nukes? But what about Corona? Weren't we just talking about Corona? That was like everything to us. And now nobody even remembers what Corona even is. So the mystical writings say that in the times of Mashiach, the chicken grows as the egg decays, right? The chicken grows as the egg decays. And I remember, seeing the final hours before Jeremy's adorable little chickens were born. The very chickens that my dog would eventually come to eat for lunch. And before they were born, from the outside, it looked like the shell was just thin and tenuous and deteriorating. But the real story is what was happening on the inside, right? A new life was being born. And that's what's happening right now. We're all being distracted, not just by certain things in this world from other things in this world, but being distracted by everything that's happening in this world from the real story, which is the story of Mashiach and redemption that's being born right now, right? And the egg is just starting to shake, right? And something beautiful is being born. And we just have to keep that faith and that knowledge that as crazy as things seem to be, we're seeing it from the outside. From the inside, God is bringing redemption and he's bringing salvation. So I want to bless all of us that we should have divine help and success to fill ourselves with prayer and with faith and to build that tabernacle, that holy tabernacle that we can fill with Shekhinah, that will not only be a place in this world that God can dwell in during these times, but that we can take refuge in as well. Because, week to week, I don't know the next time we see each other what the world's going to be like. We don't know what's going to happen. It's like a whole week from now, what's going to be until then. So I want you all to know that Jeremy and I, we're always praying for you. We're praying for you. Our family is praying for you. We're with you. Even though we may be across the world, that's only physically. Spiritually, we're together and we are praying for each other and we love each other. And Hashem should bless all of you. Shalom, shalom.